next we're going to have a look back at De Zerbi's press conference, because I thought there were quite some interesting quotes coming out of the press conference today. I thought he spoke well, really well today, to be honest. And let's go through a few quotes. And first of all, he's talking about if he had a message for the fans. And he says, I haven't any message for the fans. The last game, they were fantastic before the game. The message for my staff and players is that we have to deserve their support because the fans are suffering like us, like the players. There is just one club, one team. The players can change team, but for the fans, the club is unique. We need to make the fans happy with the right football, the right spirit, and the right behaviour on the pitch. So saying the right things there.
I think the most important thing he said there is, I think we've heard a lot from this season from managers and even the club saying, oh, it's all about unity, the fans got to stick together, we need the fans to be the 12th man. You know, always saying about the fans need to do this, the fans need to do that. And I'm really happy De Zerbi came out and said, you know what? It's time the players play to deserve the fan support, because they haven't been doing that this season. They haven't deserved the support from fans. Do you think they deserve what we did against Forest? They didn't deserve that. We did it just out of sheer desperation. That's what caused, that massive amount of support when the team bus came in against Forest. We still ended up losing 3-0. But I think we can all agree that I don't think the players or whatever's happened this season they haven't deserved what happened on that game before that game. The fans took it upon themselves to try and do something to try and get some positivity back into this group, because we've been so lacking of it. And I think De Zerbi's absolutely right. He said it in his NBC interview as well. We need to get these teams playing to deserve what these fans are giving us. Because I think the fans, a lot has been said. Frank was saying it as well about the bit of toxicity in the stands, about how we turn too quickly, all this kind of stuff. I think we've been supportive. I think we've been very supportive in general. And I know we could do more. I think all fan bases could do more. But I don't think a lot of fan bases, given the size of our club comparatively, have gone through what we've been through, especially at home over the last 18 months. 2 wins in the last, where is it? 4 wins in the last 18 months at home. That is absolutely ridiculous. I think if other clubs of this size, if they've gone through what we've gone through, there'll be riots. I really believe that there'll be a lot worse than what we've been doing. And I think in general, every time the game starts, before every game, we are quite supportive, and we do try and do our part. And then what happens is we get continually let down on the pitch, time and time again. There's only so many times you can be let down before, how long can you keep faith and keep giving that extra bit as a fan when you know what's coming? Essentially was what happened. So I'm really glad, De Zerbi, that's the message from him, because I'm kind of sick of hearing managers say, yeah, we need the fans to be more supportive, we need unity, because I think we've been given that more by and large. Yes, there's been moments where fans booed Vicara and I didn't like that, and there has been some bad moments, don't get me wrong, but I think by and large we have been quite supportive of this group. We have been trying to do our part, and we've the ones who've been let down by the players time and time again. And I think it's about time, as De Zerbi has said, they earn that support. And they earn it to deserve it.
The time starts this weekend,
Absolutely.
people. Start deserving that support. But regardless, we need to be lining the streets next week.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I think, again, De Zerbi's first game, let's get a TIFO going. Let's show all the support we can. Let's do our part. I don't mind us doing our part. I'm just saying I don't want to hear it from right now from the coaches or the clubs.
Yeah, it should come directly from the fans.
Yeah, because we've heard it from them. We are doing our part. We don't need to hear it from you saying you need to do your part, because we are doing it. Like Frank, he was kind of at points accusing the fans of not doing their part and stuff like that. I'm like, no, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that.
I agree with that. Zerbi already saying that he's feeling the bad luck as Tottenham manager. Well, there's a lot more to come, Roberto. He said, I started with not bid luck. Kudus was in my head as a crucial player, especially for the position, but we have to look forward. I think we have a lot of very good attackers. Kolo Muani, I know, is not playing a good season, but he is a good player. Matisse Tell, I wanted at Marseille. Javi is a big talent. Richarlison and Solanke as well. I mean, you probably know better than me. But yeah, interesting that he wanted Matisse Tell at Marseille. I'm not sure if we knew that or not in the January transfer window.
Yeah, I think it was the January just been, wasn't it? He was linked. Obviously, at that point, he was left out of the European squad. There was a lot of rumours whether he would be in or out. I think come just before January and December time, I think he started to play a bit more, didn't he? And he scored against like Bournemouth, and he started to play. So I think that kind of got shoved. Also, we had no players, so we couldn't really afford to let anyone else go. But very interesting to hear that. I think he would have done quite well at Marseille under Zerbi, and it's interesting to see that he was interested in him. And obviously, we know that he had when he was Brighton manager, he had a deal agreed for Kudus as well as another player that he knows very well and wanted at his former club. So hopefully he can get the best out of them. In terms of the Kudus thing, I think we've all been saying Kudus is perfect for what Zerbi wanted to do.
Have we not heard this story before though? Because when Frank came in, we was like, he wanted this one, he wanted that one, he had a deal for Brennan Johnson.
Gray as well.
Yeah.
He had a deal agreed, and we gazumped him for both.
Yeah.
And he didn't. Well, he used Gray, I guess, didn't he? But he didn't really use Johnson so much. Didn't like Johnson, Frank. But it's true, we have heard it. So I think the reality is, you can want a player and scout them. It's all, you never really know them properly until you manage them, do you?
But I do think this is kind of what we need at this moment in time, is a manager to come in and kind of tell the players how good they are. Puff their chests out, give them a bit of confidence, and I think this is what this is going to do.
Yeah, obviously talking about Moani, he's a good player who hasn't had a good season. Let's hope he gives him a bit of confidence. He's going to need him, because I think his versatility right now is very much going to help and going to be needed. It's going to be interesting to see up front, is it Solanke or Richarlison? I do think he's probably going to go Solanke, but it's going to be, I think, it's interesting when a manager has fresh eyes on a situation, on a team, and what they see and what they kind of value in certain players. Is going to be very telling. And I think Sunday, obviously it's anyone's guess. What we can always posit what he's going to go with, but I'm glad he's looking at the attackers and saying, look, we've got some good attackers here. And yes, I think Kudus was a massive miss, but we have enough to score goals, and that's all we need.
Yeah. He's talking as well on any players that surprised him in training, and he said, in the last period I watched a lot of games, especially of Tottenham, and yes, one thing is to watch the game at home, and the different thing is to work with them on the pitch. We have some very big players, very young players, Bergvall, Archie Gray, Matties Tell, Javi Simmons. But in a way, we have older players that are important, like Mickey van der Ven. Van der Ven is a crucial player for me, like Romero, like Porro, like Solanke. I want to see, again, the same Gallagher I loved at Chelsea time. And I think I am very lucky because I have a big confidence in my players and their qualities. For me, my target is to help them and to play well and to enjoy with the ball, because their characteristics are very clear to me. So again, just talking up these players, trying to give them confidence. He's pretty much mentioned the whole squad at this point about how big they are. I mean, the one player I noticed he hasn't mentioned is Destiny Udogie.
Interesting, he's saying he considers Van der Ven one of the older players, which is mad, because not so long ago he's considered one of the younger players.
Yeah.
But he's right, and I think interesting for me, he emphasised how crucial Van der Ven is. And I think knowing Van der Ven's qualities and knowing how he'll want to try and play the football, Zerbi, we know that Van der Ven, with his pace, is so crucial to making sure that we cut out those counters, and we when we're defending and we're not leaving too much space. And we know that he did that under Ange. Obviously, it did cost him his hamstrings on occasion, but he was definitely very good at it, but he probably did it too much. Hopefully, if we can get him doing it a lot less, but still kind of performing a role where he has to make sure that no one's running in behind, but maybe doing it a lot less than we were doing it under Ange, he can maybe get the best of both worlds for Van der Ven. I think he is very crucial. And I think he has at points he's taken his game up a bit this year. But unfortunately, again, over the last couple of months, he's been terrible and making lots and lots of mistakes. So Van der Ven, again, get his head right. He's a top defender. Yeah,
of course he is. And I think, you're right. Up until halfway point, I think, we were talking about him as our player of the season. We were talking about him as, really taking up his game. We were talking about him as the only player that's really improved under Thomas Frank. And then the second half of the season, he's been dreadful. That's the reality. So I think all this stuff about, talking up these players is a breath of fresh air, because under Thomas Frank, he just talked everything down and talked the club down. And when he spoke about the players as well, he was like, oh, we only have one world-class player in Pedro Porro. And Kuti and Mickey must be looking at that being, what am I doing here then? I'm a World Cup winner. Mickey, starts from the Netherlands, and they've been both progressing really well. I felt like maybe it was up until that point that was the kind of change in Mickey van der Ven. Maybe that's where Mickey van der Ven started going the other way, because he didn't kind of feel the love of the manager and feel the confidence of the manager. I don't know. I'm just thinking about that right now. But this is so much a breath of fresh air because he's actually giving these players confidence, where Frank, it felt like he was just breaking their confidence.
Well, every time we lost, it was like, remember we finished 17th.
Yeah.
Remember how bad this squad is. Remember this, remember that. And I don't like managers talking like that. I understand fans like honesty and fans want a manager to say how it is. And I think when Conte was here, maybe he did that as well and stuff like that. But for me, it was just with Thomas Frank, it was always a bit of a defeatist attitude all the time, and he wasn't inspiring confidence. And the way we played was cowardly as well. He set us up like we were an inferior team. And so that definitely got bred into the players, for sure. So for me, I like the way Zerbi speaks. I like the way he plays. And hopefully the players really take to it quickly.
Yeah. He's talking about why he only brought 2 coaches, and he says it is totally different, this situation, because we have no time to work like in Brighton, and I don't want to put confusion inside of the players. So maybe that suggests that some of these other coaches will arrive in the summer.
Yeah, I think that clears up the questions I had, I think, about why it was only 2, because as I think Ali Gold said in his previous jobs, he's taken 6 or 7 members of staff with him. Yeah, it's only 2 in this time. So maybe it's a case of you don't want to overload these players right now with new information and new things all the time, because I think Zerbi said in his press conference, they've had now, this is their 3rd manager they've had this season. They've had a lot of changes, and they've already probably looked a bit confused. He just wants to simplify it right now to a few things and not overload these players and get them some basic organisation on and off the ball. And then next season, maybe we'll see a bit more wholesale changes. And I think maybe as well, what if he proves his worth over the next 7 games to Zerbi, and we really turn things around and we stay up comfortably, I think he would have earned the trust of the board to say, yeah, just get whatever coaches you want, and we'll buy them. It's no problem. I think that's probably also a part of it. So, yeah, I think it's probably the right thing.
Regardless, they need to bring in the coaches. We've given them a 5-year contract here.
I mean, I would, but let's say if we either stay up by the skin of our teeth or we go down having no signs of improvement, are they going to fund another 6 coaches? I wonder.
I think they have to.
I would. I agree with you, but will they?
I think they will. I think like they've put so much trust in him now. I think the thing is with the conversation is like De Zerbi's probably said to them, look, we need to just keep it minimal now. We need to work on what we can. Don't want to put too much confusion, like he says. But come the summer, we need to bring in my team because we've got a big pre-season ahead. He's talking about as well rumours of players wanting to leave, and he says, no, it's not important for me now. We have to push all together, all players and staff and fans inside the stadium to achieve our goal. Then we'll see. I don't want players if they don't want to stay. My contract is for 5 years for sure. I want to say my opinion in the transfer market session because I am a coach, but I want to see the players happy to work in this club. So, yeah, look. Yeah. It's clear that anyone that's going to want to leave in the summer will probably be granted their wish.
I think so, and I think right now we need, obviously we need a refresh. Obviously we know that with De Zerbi's a new era and everything. If players don't want to be here, that's fine. And at least with De Zerbi at the helm, he knows what he wants. And if we can get some good replacements like a Van Hecker, if we're talking about Romero and Van de Ven leaving, some good replacements, guys who are happy to be at Tottenham and want to be here, who aren't kind of burdened by the past like Van de Ven and Romero in terms of things going wrong or not trusting the board and having these doubts, all this kind of stuff, is what it is. I obviously, in a perfect world, I want Romero and Van de Ven to want to be here and I want them to stay, and I think they're fantastic defenders and I'll try and convince them, but if they don't want to be here, try and get some good money and let's move on. And hopefully De Zerbi with some good recruitment can replace them. It's going to be a hell of a job, but we've seen what De Zerbi can do at other clubs with new signings and when he's given good tools. So it gives me a bit more hope having someone like him at the helm to kind of replace Romero and Van de Ven.
He was asked about getting back to the club's DNA in terms of attacking football, and he says, my style is one part the style of play, and a part is about character and personality. I don't have the time for principles or build-up. I want to give organisation with the ball and without the ball. What I want to do and what I want to achieve is character, the right spirit, courage to play and attack. The DNA of this club and the squad is to find the goal to score. I can, in this part, I can be able to transfer my principle. So, I mean, that goes to what we were saying before in terms of what he's going to do from like now until the end of the season. But, you know, everyone harps on about the style of play and the club's DNA and all this kind of stuff. I mean, for me, like, attacking football is great. Everyone, first and foremost, wants to see attacking football, wants to enjoy going to see their club play. But that's not the be-all and end-all for me. Like, the be-all and end-all, like I said, when Thomas Frank came in, is winning football. If anyone brings in winning football, then I'll be a fan of them. But it's nice to see attacking football as well.
Yeah, I think, look, I would argue, I mean, and maybe right now in the Premier League, you can maybe say it's not so true, but I would argue definitely in the last 10 years, attacking football has been winning football. That's been the way that most of the top teams play. They attack, they dominate, they suffocate the opposition, and they try to get dominance. And that is winning football by and large. I don't know why it always has to be kind of one or the other. I do think the best way to win lots of football matches on a more consistent basis is to have your team be more dominant, be more technical, have more possession, and create more chances in the opposition. That is going to be the way. Now, right now, obviously, you've got Arsenal at the top of the league with a very mean defence and very good from set pieces and all this kind of stuff. So you could argue, is there a change happening? Is that the way football's going? Do you need to be a bit more pragmatic to really win the big things? I mean, you still got a lot of top clubs. You know, I know Barca just lost to Atletico, but they play super attacking football. Man City, you know, are up there for the title. They're still
PSG.
They play attacking football. PSG and Enrique they play very attacking football as well. So I think I would rather try and do it that way than do what Frank was doing, which was quite cowardly in my opinion. I didn't like that approach to football. Obviously, I want to see my team win. That's the be-all and end-all. But I do believe a more attacking style, obviously with good tactical tweaks and like and how Zerbi plays with the little small details. Everything's very detail oriented, which I think something Ange suffered with. He wasn't very good in the details. He was just very good with the bigger picture stuff and how he wanted his team to play in the bigger picture. But when it came to the small details, I think he was lacking in that for sure, and that definitely was one of his downfalls. I think Zerbi is extremely good in the details, and he's very detail oriented. So I think that's going to help him. But I think he's going to bring attacking football not because I don't think he wants to just play attacking football because he likes it. I think he's going to play attacking football because he believes that's the best way to win, the best way to get results, and that's why he's going to bring it in.
Yeah. He was asked about why he chose to join Tottenham now instead of waiting for the summer. And he says, why now? Because it depends on the angle you look at the situation from. From my perspective, it was a big opportunity. Tottenham is one of the most important clubs in the Premier League. The Premier League is the best league in the world. I love the qualities of the players. We have a lot of specific players for my style. Then there was the crucial part. There was 12 days before the first game. For me, it was important to have more than 1 week. I thought it could be important to understand the problems. I don't want to give too many instructions on the pitch if we are speaking about just the football, but our organisation with the ball and without the ball, I hope in 10 days to reach the target for me. Which is interesting.
It interestingly mentions this gap because obviously we're theorising with Tudor and stuff when he could be sacked and if a new manager would come in. I always kind of earmarked this international break because I knew we would have a big break here. I didn't realise that he was thinking like that as well. Maybe that if I am to come in, maybe that's going to be the point. He could be just saying it because obviously an opportunity arose at that point when Tottenham were desperate and gave him a big contract, and he's kind of in hindsight saying, yeah, there's a 12-day break here, and I could have, I was really, I thought I really needed it. But it's interesting to think we kept hearing from him or from the press. He's not interested until next season. He's not interested when always there was a very short turnaround in games. But all of a sudden, when there's this big break, all of a sudden he's a bit more open to it. So maybe there's some truth to it. What was left out that quote was right at the beginning of the press conference. He said, I want to thank Vina and Lange for showing so much trust in me and, giving me a lot of trust for this project. And I think that's pretty much him saying the trust he means by 5-year deal, third highest paid manager in the league, obviously well remunerated.
That's the first black mark against De Zerbi's name, thanking Vina and Lange.
There you go. I don't want to hear that. But yeah, I think obviously it's nice, good words. He's trying to get the fans on side. He's trying to give out a good message. But I think at the end of the day, he's here because we gave him an extremely one-sided deal.
Yeah. Zerbi again reiterated that he'll be here next season no matter what. He says, anyway, if I sign my contract in April, I have to be ready to stay no matter what next season. So that's positive. And finally, he was talking about whether he could be here for a long time after signing that 5-year contract. And he said that I stayed for 3 years in Sassuolo, and then I left from Ukraine when the war started. In Brighton, I left with a different problem, and in Marseille, maybe the same. I would like to stay for 4 or 5 for a long time. I don't know how many years. But in Marseille, like this, because in Marseille, my idea was to stay for a long time. Then you have to speak to the club, and when you have a different view of football or other things, you have to leave money and have to leave. But in my plan, for sure, there is an idea to stay for a long time, to try put Tottenham... I'm not speaking about titles because it's not the right moment now, but to put Tottenham to stay in first position in the Premier League, because there are all parts to reach that level. So it's interesting. He says he doesn't want to speak about titles, but he wants to speak about Spurs being first in the Premier League.
Who says we're going to stay there? But yeah. Look, I think we've spoken about maybe how his career has been misconstrued as a manager who always blows his top and always leaves under Conte-esque style blow-ups in bad circumstances, where it's not necessarily true. Maybe he's trying to correct the record there, explaining, Sassuolo, Shakhtar, it was very different scenarios about what happened there. But there's no getting away from the fact that with Brighton, he did leave after 2 years via whatever. He was unhappy or they were unhappy, mutual unhappiness there. And with Marseille, it did kind of blow up for one reason or another mid-season when things weren't even going that badly when you look at the positions they were in the league. So definitely, there's jury's out on it. But for me, hopefully he can find a home here. Hopefully this is a club that there can be an alignment from the hierarchy, which is rare to find for us. I think in theory, he's a manager who's shown he can overperform with a bit of limited resources. He's a manager who's shown he can play the football the fans want to see. He's a manager who's got Premier League experience and who knows his football can work in this league. And he's a manager who has, the mentality, I think, to lead a big club like Tottenham, which I think other managers maybe, definitely Thomas Frank, just didn't have that mentality, I think, or personality to lead such a big club. So I think there's definitely a lot of things going for him and this appointment. And hopefully he can fulfill his contract and be here for the long. We can finally find a guy who could be here for the long term. But there are definitely a lot of question marks as well. Definitely before him signing, a lot of question marks about whether it will eventually blow up with the board, whether there will be too many disagreements, whether his football has been caught up with in the Premier League, over the last couple of years when it was revolutionary, and all this kind of stuff. Whether he's going to start getting frustrated if his best players are being sold and that kind of thing. And whether he can keep us up as well in the short term. So there's a lot of, pros and cons about the future of De Zerbi, of where we see it. But I think there's definitely more reasons to be hopeful, in my opinion. And I think definitely I felt like when he was first getting linked and also when he was first getting confirmed, I thought the negative reaction from some fans was way over the top.
Way over the top.
And not in regards, I'm just purely from football point of view, I mean. There was a lot of people saying this guy's going to blow up. He's, this is the worst appointment in this situation, all this kind of stuff. And I was looking at thinking, I think you not giving enough credit for how good of a manager he is. And I hopefully think this could be a really good fit. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to think it might not be, and it might not be. But I think there's also some reasons to think maybe this can last.
Look, I don't think he's a guy that wants to, walk out of the club after 2 years. He wants to build a legacy. He wants to build a foundation. And if he's allowed to do that, and he's very kind of focused on the way he wants to do things, and he doesn't want to bend to a board or bend to anyone to get there. He wants to do it in his own way. And if a club doesn't let him do it in his own way, he'll be out the door. So he's very stubborn in that sense. So it's all about if Spurs let him do it in his way. We all know that the Spurs board haven't let anyone do it in their way, ever. So they're going to need to make a lot of changes to accommodate for Roberto De Zerbi.
You know what? I think we'll learn a lot in the summer in terms of the hierarchy, what happens with especially Lange and the sporting director situation, everything. I think we're going to learn a lot with that in terms of how much their power they're giving to Zerbi and how much he can implement his own project into this club, and if he's going to start getting disgruntled, because if I think if Lange doesn't go, or if he's getting too much power, I think you might see De Zerbi starting getting disgruntled very quickly.
Yeah,
but if we can get De Zerbi to help pick his guy or whatever, and there's a good alignment there, I think maybe we can start being a bit more hopeful.
But look, all in all, I think it was a good press conference. I think he spoke well. I think it made a few fans excited about what could come if we are to stay in the Premier League, but big work ahead. I like the way he's kind of trying to build these players up, trying to give them confidence. And we'll see. We'll see how it goes these last 7 games. But it starts this weekend against Sunderland, a very tough game. And we'll see how it goes, people. But let us know your thoughts on De Zerbi's first press conference as a Spurs manager in the comments section below.